My husband looked me dead in the eye and said, "I wish you were never born." I'm staring at my laptop screen at 2:47 a.m., and my hands won't stop shaking. The email thread I just discovered is still open in front of me. 23 messages between my husband David and someone named Marcus Chen at Hartwell and Associates, the marketing firm where I interviewed 6 months ago. The same interview where I thought I absolutely nailed it, only to get a rejection letter 2 days later saying I lacked the professional maturity they were looking for. "Hey Marcus, thanks for considering my wife Sarah for the account manager position. I know she seems eager, but I have to be honest with you, she's been struggling with some reliability issues lately. Missing deadlines, that sort of thing. I'd hate for her to start somewhere new and have it blow up. Maybe something more entry-level would be better?" The timestamp shows David sent this email the morning after my interview. While I was downstairs making him his favorite blueberry pancakes, celebrating what I thought had gone so well, he was upstairs torpedoing my chances. My coffee has gone cold, but I keep scrolling. There's another thread with Jennifer Walsh at Morrison Creative from August. And another with someone at Breakthrough Marketing from April. Each one follows the same pattern, David reaching out to help them make an informed decision about his wife, painting me as unreliable, unprofessional, someone who talks a big game but can't deliver. Sarah tends to oversell her abilities. She's got great ideas but struggles with follow-through. I love her to death, but I'd hate to see her set up for failure in a role that demanding. I remember Morrison Creative. I was so excited about that opportunity, a senior copywriter position that would have paid $68,000, almost double what I was making at the boutique where I'd been stuck for 3 years. When they called to say they'd decided to go with someone with more demonstrated leadership experience, I cried for hours. David brought me ice cream and rubbed my shoulders, telling me the right opportunity would come along eventually. The worst part isn't even the betrayal, it's how good he was at comforting me afterward. How he'd hold me while I sobbed about another rejection, whispering that they didn't deserve me anyway, that something better was waiting around the corner. His voice was always so gentle, so convincing. "Don't let it get to you, babe. You're amazing." Their loss. I found these emails by accident. David left his laptop open when he went to grab food, and a notification popped up from LinkedIn. I was just going to close it, but I saw my name in the preview. Curiosity got the better of me. I thought maybe he was bragging about me to a colleague or something sweet like that. Instead, I discovered that my husband of 8 years has been systematically destroying my career while playing the role of my biggest supporter. Every rejection that left me questioning my worth, every interview that seemed to go well until it mysteriously didn't, every time I wondered if I was just not good enough, it was him. It was always him. I hear his key in the front door. He's back from Tony's bar, probably expecting me to be asleep so he can slip into bed without having to pretend to care about how my latest interview went. This morning I interviewed at Cascade Communications for a marketing director position. Based on this email pattern, I'm guessing I'll be getting a rejection call by Thursday. But tonight is different. Tonight I have proof. I close the laptop and wait in the dark living room, my heart hammering against my ribs. When David rounds the corner and flicks on the light, finding me sitting there at 3 a.m., the smile drops right off his face. "Sarah? What are you doing up? We need to talk." David's face shifts through several expressions in the span of seconds, surprise, confusion, and then something that looks almost like calculation. He sets his keys on the side table with deliberate care, buying himself time. "Okay," he says slowly, loosening his tie. "You look upset. What's going on?" I study his face in the lamplight. Even now, even knowing what I know, he looks so genuinely concerned. Those warm brown eyes that made me fall in love with him 9 years ago, the slight furrow in his brow that appears whenever he's worried about me. If I hadn't seen the evidence with my own eyes, I'd be melting right now, ready to curl up in his arms and tell him about some trivial problem with my sister or work drama. "How was Tony's?" I ask instead. He blinks, clearly not expecting small talk. "Fine. Same as always." "Sarah, you're scaring me a little. Why are you sitting in the dark at 3 in the morning? Did you have fun catching up with Marcus Chen?" The change is subtle, but I catch it, a slight tightening around his eyes, a barely perceptible pause before he answers. "Marcus? I haven't seen Marcus in months." "What are you talking about?" The lie comes so easily, so naturally. How many times has he done this? How many times have I accepted his explanations without question because I trusted him completely? "That's interesting," I say, keeping my voice level. "Because according to your laptop, you've been having quite a lot of conversations with Marcus. About me." David goes very still. For a moment, the only sound is the hum of our refrigerator and a car passing outside. Then he lets out a long breath and sinks into the armchair across from me. "You went through my computer? Is that really what you want to focus on right now? It's a violation of privacy, Sarah. You can't just." Hartwell and Associates. Morrison Creative. Breakthrough Marketing. I list them like evidence in a courtroom. Should I keep going? Because there are more. His hands clench into fists on the armrests, then relax. When he looks up at me, something has shifted in his face. The mask of concern is gone, replaced by something colder. "You want to know why?" His voice is different now, flatter, harder. "You really want to know?" My stomach drops. Part of me had been hoping he'd deny it, that there would be some explanation that made sense, some way this could all be a misunderstanding. But the way he's looking at me now tells me everything I need to know. "Yes," I whisper. "I want to know why my husband has been sabotaging my career for months." "Try years," he says, and the casual cruelty in his tone makes me flinch. "And it's because someone had to be realistic about your limitations since you clearly weren't going to be." The words hit me like physical blows. My limitations? Come on, Sarah. Marketing director? Senior copywriter? You've been at the same boutique job for 3 years making 35 grand. You think that qualifies you for positions paying twice as much? I never got the chance to find out because you made sure. I saved you from public humiliation. He's leaning forward now, animated in a way I rarely see him. Do you know what it's like watching your wife apply for jobs she's not qualified for, getting her hopes up, setting herself up for failure? It was painful to watch. So you decided to control the outcome. I decided to manage the situation before it got out of hand. The casual way he says it, like he's talking about handling a difficult client instead of systematically destroying my self-confidence, makes my vision blur with rage. How long? I ask. How long have you been doing this? David checks his watch, like we're discussing dinner plans instead of the collapse of our marriage. Since about 6 months after we got married, he says. When you started getting these grand ideas about your career potential. 8 years. He's been doing this for 8 years. Grand ideas? My voice cracks on the words. You mean wanting a career that could actually support me? David shrugs, and that casual gesture makes something snap inside my chest. You were making enough for what you needed. Between my salary and your little job, we were comfortable. Comfortable for who? You never asked me if I was comfortable making barely enough to cover groceries while you paid for everything else and held it over my head. I never held anything over your head. Sarah, maybe we should wait on the vacation until your boutique pays you better. I wish I could get you that necklace you wanted, but on my salary alone. Don't worry about the mortgage payment, babe, I've got it covered again. I'm mimicking his voice now, years of small comments flooding back. Every single one of those was a reminder that I wasn't contributing enough. Because you weren't. The words come out flat and brutal. Do you have any idea what it's like being married to someone who contributes less than 30% to the household income? My friends' wives are doctors, lawyers, executives. And mine works part-time at a boutique that sells overpriced candles to housewives. There it is. Finally. The truth he's been hiding behind 8 years of supportive smiles and shoulder rubs. So you sabotaged me instead of just talking to me about it. I tried talking to you. He's standing now, pacing behind the chair. Remember when Breakthrough Marketing posted that copywriter position? I suggested maybe you should get some more experience first, work on building your portfolio. But you got defensive and accused me of not believing in you. Because you told me I should be realistic about my skill level. Because you should have been. Sarah, you had a communications degree and 3 years of writing product descriptions. They wanted someone with advertising agency experience and a proven track record of campaign management. And I'll never know if I could have grown into that role because you made sure I never got the chance. David stops pacing and turns to face me, his expression shifting into something I've never seen before, a kind of cold contempt that makes my skin crawl. You want to know what Marcus told me after he met with you? He said you seemed enthusiastic but naive. Those were his exact words. Jennifer Walsh said you had unrealistic salary expectations for your experience level. I didn't sabotage anything, Sarah. I just gave them information that helped them make informed decisions. Information designed to make me look incompetent. Information that was true. His voice is rising now. You think I made up the stuff about missed deadlines? Remember the Morrison freelance project you took on last year? You turned it in 4 days late. Because you kept interrupting me to ask about dinner or help you find your charger or... Jesus Christ, listen to yourself. You can't even take responsibility for your own failures. It's always someone else's fault, isn't it? The room feels like it's spinning. This man standing in our living room, saying these things with such venom, is a stranger. Where's the David who brought me soup when I was sick? Who listened to me practice presentations and told me I was going to do great? Who are you? I whisper. He laughs, but there's no humor in it. I'm the guy who's been propping up your ego for 8 years while quietly fixing your messes. I'm the guy who's been protecting you from reality because I thought that was what marriage meant. Protecting me? You've been destroying my confidence systematically for 8 years and calling it protection? I've been keeping you from humiliating yourself in front of people who matter. People who matter more than your own wife? David looks at me for a long moment, and when he speaks, his voice is deadly quiet. Sometimes I wonder if marrying you was the biggest mistake I ever made. The words hang in the air between us like poison gas. I feel something fundamental break inside my chest, not just my heart, but something deeper. The last fragile thread connecting me to the man I thought I married. Sometimes I wonder the same thing, I say quietly. David's face shifts, like he wasn't expecting me to agree with him. For just a second, he looks uncertain again, almost vulnerable. But then his jaw hardens. Do you have any idea what it's been like? His voice is getting louder, 8 years of apparently suppressed resentment pouring out. Watching you get excited about jobs you'll never get, making plans with money you'll never earn. Do you know how exhausting it is being married to someone so completely delusional about their own capabilities? Each word is a knife, but what's worse is that I can hear echoes of conversations we've had before, times when I thought he was being supportive but now I realize he was managing me. When I wanted to take that digital marketing certification course last year and he said maybe we should see how your current job goes first. When I talked about starting freelance consulting and he worried I was taking on too much too fast. Every gentle redirection, every soft discouragement, every let's be practical, babe, it was all part of this. You could have just divorced me, I say. If I was such a disappointment, such a burden, why didn't you just leave? David runs his hands through his hair, and for the first time tonight he looks genuinely frustrated instead of cruel. Because I loved you, he says, like the past tense is accidental. I loved who you were when we met. You were sweet and grateful and happy with simple things. You didn't need to be some high-powered executive to be enough for me. But somewhere along the way I stopped being enough. You stopped being realistic. He's pacing again, his voice getting more agitated. You started wanting things that weren't for people like us. People like you. People like me? You grew up in a split-level ranch in Ohio, Sarah. Your dad sold insurance and your mom taught elementary school. You went to state college and got decent grades. You're not some powerhouse executive material, and there's nothing wrong with that until you start pretending otherwise. The casual way he dismisses my entire background, my family, my education, like they're character flaws instead of just facts, makes my hands shake with rage. So you decided to keep me in my place. I decided to keep you from setting yourself up for constant rejection and disappointment. Do you think it was fun for me watching you cry every time another job didn't pan out? Do you think I enjoyed comforting you through every mysterious interview failure? The air quotes he makes around mysterious are like a slap. He's actually proud of this. Proud of orchestrating my failures and then playing the comforting husband. You're sick, I whisper. I'm practical. Someone had to be. You're controlling and manipulative, Anne. I'm the reason you have health insurance. His voice cracks like a whip across the room. I'm the reason you have a roof over your head and food in the refrigerator and a car that runs. I'm the reason you get to play dress up at your little boutique job instead of facing the real world where your English degree and your creativity don't mean shit. The mask is completely off now. This is who he really is, who he's always been underneath the patient smiles and gentle suggestions. I never asked you to carry me financially, I say, but even as the words leave my mouth, I realize how naive they sound. You didn't have to ask. What choice did I have? The choice to be honest with me instead of sabotaging me behind my back for 8 years. David looks at me like I'm speaking a foreign language. Honest about what? That you're not executive material? That your writing samples are mediocre? That your interview skills need work? You think that conversation would have gone better than me quietly managing the situation? Managing the situation. I repeat his words slowly. Is that what you call destroying your wife's self-confidence? I call it preventing bigger problems down the road. Bigger problems? I stand up, my legs unsteady. Like what, David? Like me actually succeeding at something? Like you taking a job you couldn't handle and getting fired 6 months later? Like you embarrassing yourself and by extension, me, in front of people in my professional network? Your professional network. The pieces are clicking together now. Marcus Chen. You know him from Northwestern, don't you? Your MBA program. David's silence is answer enough. Jennifer Walsh too? How many of these people are you connected to? That's not the point. That's exactly the point. My voice echoes off the walls. You've been using your connections to sabotage mine. These aren't random companies, are they? You've been strategically targeting opportunities where you have influence. David's jaw ticks. I've been using my network to gather information and provide context. That's what networks are for. Information. I laugh, but it comes out broken. Is that what you told them when you reached out? Hey, just wanted to give you some information about my wife. I told them I wanted to make sure it was a good mutual fit. By lying about me. By telling them things you wouldn't tell them yourself. Like how you spent 2 weeks last month obsessing over the font choice for a single product description. Or how you cried for an hour when Margaret at the boutique gave you feedback on the spring catalog copy. Each example hits like a physical blow because they're true, but stripped of all context. I spent time on that font choice because I care about getting details right. And I cried because Margaret screamed at me in front of customers for something that wasn't my fault. See? There's always an excuse. There's always context that you conveniently leave out when you're building your case against me. David shakes his head like I'm being deliberately obtuse. Do you want to know what Jennifer Walsh really said after your interview? She said you seemed sweet but in over your head. She was trying to be kind, Sarah. They all were. Because you primed them to see me that way before I ever walked in the room. I gave them realistic expectations. The casual certainty in his voice, like he's discussing the weather, makes me want to scream. Instead, I walk to the kitchen and pour myself a glass of water with hands that won't stop trembling. David follows me, and I can feel him watching my every movement. How many? I ask without turning around. How many opportunities have you interfered with? It's not interference when. How many, David? He's quiet for so long that I turn to look at him. He's leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed, looking more tired than angry now. 12, he says finally. Maybe 13. 12. 12 jobs where I thought I wasn't good enough, where I walked away questioning my abilities, my worth, my entire sense of what I was capable of. The Brennan agency position last fall. That was you too, wasn't it? Tom Brennan was my fraternity brother. He asked me privately what I thought about hiring you. And you told him I wasn't qualified. I told him you might be happier somewhere with less pressure. The Brennan agency is cutthroat, Sarah. People work 70-hour weeks there. You complain when you have to stay late to finish inventory at the boutique. I complain because Margaret schedules me alone on inventory nights when it's supposed to be a 2-person job, but you wouldn't know that because you don't actually listen when I talk about work. You just catalog my complaints to use against me later. David pushes off from the doorframe, moving closer. That's not fair. Fair? The glass slips in my wet hand, and I set it down hard on the counter. You want to talk about fair? What's fair about letting me believe for 8 years that I just wasn't good enough? What's fair about comforting me through rejections you orchestrated? I was trying to spare your feelings. You were trying to control my life. We're standing 3 feet apart now, close enough that I can smell the beer on his breath and see the red rimming his eyes. Up close, he looks older than I remember, like the mask slipping has aged him years in a single night. Someone had to, he says quietly. You were going to keep applying for these jobs, keep getting your hopes up, keep setting yourself up for disappointment. I couldn't watch that anymore. So you made sure the disappointment was guaranteed. You know what the worst part is? I'm surprised by how steady my voice sounds. I actually started to believe you. When Morrison Creative said I lacked leadership experience, I enrolled in that online management course. When Breakthrough said I needed stronger portfolio pieces, I spent 3 months redesigning the boutique's entire social media presence on my own time. I kept trying to fix the things they said were wrong with me, never knowing that none of it mattered because you'd already made sure I wouldn't get hired. David shifts uncomfortably. Those skills you developed weren't wasted. They were pointless because you never intended to let me use them. I opened the laptop I'd closed earlier and turned the screen toward him. Look at this email to Jennifer Walsh. You told her I had unrealistic expectations about work-life balance and that I'd mentioned wanting to leave by 5:30 most days. Do you remember what I actually said to you about that job? He doesn't answer, but I can see in his face that he remembers. I said I was excited because their website mentioned flexible scheduling for working parents, and I thought maybe someday when we had kids, I'd already be established somewhere family-friendly. I was planning our future, David. And you used it to make me sound lazy. That's not, you're twisting. Am I? I scrolled down to another message. Here's what you told Marcus about my reliability issues. You mentioned that I'd called in sick twice in 1 month and seemed to struggle with consistent performance under stress. Want to know what was happening that month? David's face has gone pale. That was February. When your mom was in the hospital after her stroke, and I was driving to Spokane every other day to help your dad manage her care because you couldn't get time off work. I called in sick because I was sitting in a hospital waiting room, and you knew that. Sarah, that's not how I meant. You sat at that kitchen table while I cried about letting Margaret down by missing work, and you rubbed my back and told me I was being too hard on myself. You said family comes first and that any good employer would understand. And then you turned around and used my dedication to your family as evidence that I was unreliable. The silence stretches between us. Outside, I can hear the newspaper delivery truck making its rounds, which means it's almost 4 a.m. In a few hours, David will get ready for work at the consulting firm where everyone respects his opinion and values his input. He'll shower and put on one of the suits I picked up from the dry cleaner, and he'll drive to his office where people like Marcus Chen ask for his advice. I need to know something, I say quietly. When you held me while I cried after each rejection, when you told me those companies didn't deserve me anyway, how did that feel? Knowing what you'd done? David stares at the floor for a long moment. When he looks up, something has shifted in his expression again. It felt necessary, he says finally. It felt like protecting you from something you couldn't protect yourself from. Protecting me from success? Protecting you from failure in front of people who matter. I mattered, David. I was your wife, and I mattered. Of course you mattered. That's why I... No. I closed the laptop with a sharp snap. If I mattered, you would have trusted me to handle rejection if it came naturally. You would have let me try and fail on my own merit instead of rigging the game. David runs both hands through his hair, making it stand up in messy peaks. You don't understand the pressure I was under. Tom Brennan didn't just ask me about you casually, he pulled me aside at a networking event, in front of 3 other partners, and asked if I'd recommend my wife for their open position. What was I supposed to say? The truth? That I was smart and hardworking and worth taking a chance on? In front of people who could affect my own career? Sarah, be realistic. There it is again. I laugh, but there's no humor in it. Be realistic. Your favorite phrase. Do you have any idea how many times you've said that to me over the years? David looks genuinely confused. It's not a bad thing to be realistic. It is when your version of realistic means I should never try for anything better than what I have right now. It is when your version of realistic means I should never try for anything better than what I have right now. David's face hardens again. You want something better? Fine. Let's talk about what better looks like for someone with your actual qualifications. He pulls out his phone and starts scrolling with sharp, angry movements. Here. Marketing assistant at a nonprofit. 38,000. Coordinator role at the community college. 42,000. Social media specialist for a local restaurant chain. 45 if you're lucky. He looks up at me with something that might be satisfaction. That's your realistic range, Sarah. That's what someone with a bachelor's degree and 3 years of retail marketing experience should be targeting. Those are starting positions. Everything is a starting position when you don't have real experience. I'll never have real experience if people like you keep blocking me from getting it. David shoves his phone back in his pocket. People like me? You mean people who understand how hiring actually works? Sarah, do you know what a marketing director at Cascade Communications really does? They manage a team of 8 people and oversee million-dollar campaigns. They report directly to the VP of Sales and present quarterly strategy reports to the board. How do you know all that? The question stops him mid-rant. He blinks, and I see something like panic flicker across his face. I researched the position when you said you were interviewing there. Really? Because you just described that job like you talked to someone about it in detail. I study his face, watching the careful way he's controlling his expression. David, do you know someone at Cascade? I might have mentioned to a few people that you were interviewing. Who? The word comes out sharper than I intended. Who did you mention it to? It's not important. It's important to me. Especially since I'm probably going to get a rejection call tomorrow that you've already orchestrated. I grab my phone from the counter. Let me save us both some time. Should I call them myself and withdraw my application? Would that be easier than whatever sabotage email you're planning to send? I'm not planning anything. Then who did you talk to about my interview? David looks cornered, and I realize I've stumbled onto something bigger than just the email trails I found. His network isn't just people he occasionally reaches out to, he's been actively discussing my job search with multiple contacts, probably for years. Sometimes things come up in conversation, he says carefully. When I'm out with colleagues, people ask about you, about how your job search is going. It's normal. What people, David? Just people from work. Friends. It's not like I have a conspiracy going. But something in his tone suggests otherwise. I think about all the networking events he's attended over the years, all the dinners with colleagues, all the times he's come home talking about running into so-and-so from his MBA program or someone he knew from his previous job. Oh my God. The realization hits me like cold water. This isn't just about individual companies, is it? You've been talking about me to your entire professional network. That's not. How many people know about my reliability issues? How many people have heard your version of why your wife can't seem to land a decent job? My voice is getting higher, and I can hear the hysteria creeping in. David, what exactly have you been telling people about me? He doesn't answer, which is answer enough. Jesus Christ. This isn't just sabotage. It's character assassination. I lean against the counter, suddenly dizzy. You've been destroying my professional reputation with people I've never even met. I've been having private conversations with friends about challenges in my marriage. That's normal, Sarah. Challenges in your marriage? I repeat. Is that what you call my career ambitions? David's jaw tightens. I call them unrealistic expectations that were putting stress on both of us. Both of us? Or just you? Both of us, David repeats, but his voice lacks conviction. Do you think it was easy for me, watching you get more and more frustrated, more desperate with every rejection? Do you think I enjoyed seeing you question yourself constantly? You could have stopped it at any time by just not interfering. I tried that with the first few applications. Remember Meridian PR? I didn't say anything to anyone about that one. I do remember Meridian PR 8 months ago, a content strategist position that I actually felt confident about. They'd called me back for a second interview, and I'd started researching apartment listings closer to their downtown office, thinking maybe it was finally happening. What happened with Meridian? I ask, though part of me doesn't want to know. David shifts his weight, looking uncomfortable. They called me. They what? It's standard for some companies to do informal reference checks, especially for mid-level positions. The hiring manager called me directly since I was listed as your emergency contact on the application. My emergency contact. I'd listed him as my emergency contact on every application, never thinking that companies might view a husband as a reference source. What did you tell them? I told them the truth. He says it like that should comfort me. I said you were creative and enthusiastic, but that you'd struggled with some consistency issues in previous roles. Consistency issues that didn't exist. They existed, Sarah. Maybe not at work because you were barely working full-time, but at home. You'd start projects and abandon them. Remember the blog you were going to launch about sustainable fashion? Or the freelance editing business you set up and never promoted? Those were side projects. Those were patterns. And when Janet Morrison from Meridian asked me directly whether I thought you'd be able to handle the pressure of a fast-paced agency environment, I gave her an honest assessment. Janet Morrison. I remember her, the creative director who'd seemed so impressed with my portfolio during the second interview. She'd asked detailed questions about my process and nodded approvingly at my answers. Then, radio silence for 2 weeks before the form rejection email. You told her I couldn't handle pressure. I told her you were still developing your professional resilience. I said it in a supportive way, like any concerned husband would. The casual way he says, concerned husband, makes my stomach turn. You sabotaged that opportunity while pretending it was coming from a place of love. It was coming from a place of love. His voice is rising again. Janet Morrison runs a team that bills $2 million a year in client work. People have nervous breakdowns there, Sarah. They work until midnight and come in on weekends and get screamed at by clients who threaten to pull six-figure contracts over font choices. You cry when Margaret at the boutique asks you to redo a product description. Because Margaret is verbally abusive and you know it. Margaret gives you direct feedback about your work product. If you can't handle that without crying, how exactly were you planning to handle client reviews at a major agency? I stare at him, recognizing something I've somehow missed for 8 years. This isn't just about protecting his professional reputation or managing my expectations. David genuinely believes I'm fragile, incompetent, unable to handle any real challenges. You actually think I'm pathetic, don't you? The question seems to catch him off guard. That's not, I don't think you're pathetic. Then what do you think I am? David is quiet for a long moment, and I can see him choosing his words carefully. I think you're someone who needs more support than most people to function in high-stress environments. Support. Like sabotaging my job interviews? Like realistic guidance about what kinds of environments would be good fits for your personality and skill level. My personality. I repeat the words slowly. What exactly is wrong with my personality, David? Nothing's wrong with it. You're sensitive, creative, idealistic. Those are good qualities for some roles. Just not good enough qualities for any role that pays a living wage. David sighs like I'm deliberately misunderstanding him. Sarah, be honest, when was the last time you finished something difficult without getting overwhelmed or emotional or needing someone to help you manage the stress? The question hits differently than his other attacks because part of me wonders the same thing. When was the last time I pushed through something really challenging without crying or calling in sick or asking David to help me figure out what to do? But then I realize what he's done. 8 years of gentle discouragement, of being helpful in ways that made me dependent, of solving problems for me before I had a chance to solve them myself. He systematically undermined my confidence while positioning himself as my protector. You want an answer? I ask. How about last month when I organized the boutique's entire spring inventory conversion while Margaret was out with bronchitis? I worked 12-hour days for a week, dealt with 3 different vendors who sent wrong shipments, and figured out how to input everything into the new computer system that no one else knew how to use. That's retail inventory. Or 2 months ago when I wrote and designed the boutique's holiday marketing campaign that increased December sales by 38% over the previous year. Or last spring when I taught myself Adobe Creative Suite so I could redo all our product photos because we couldn't afford to hire a photographer. David waves his hand dismissively. Those are small-scale projects. Those are projects you never asked me about, never showed interest in, and apparently never counted as real accomplishments. My voice is getting stronger, steadier. You know what I think, David? I think you needed me to be incompetent. I think you liked being the successful one, the one with the important job and the professional network. And when I started wanting more, it threatened that dynamic. That's ridiculous. Is it? When we got married, I was 24 and just out of college. You were 28 with an MBA and a consulting job. You liked being the one who knew how things worked. I liked being able to provide for us. You liked being indispensable. And somewhere along the way, my success started feeling like a threat to your importance. David's face flushes red. You think I'm threatened by you? Sarah, I make $93,000 a year. I have clients who fly me to other cities to consult on multi-million-dollar projects. The partners at my firm ask for my opinion on strategic decisions. You think I'm threatened by someone who writes product descriptions for scented candles? There it is. The contempt he's been hiding behind 8 years of supportive husband performance. No, I say quietly. I think you're threatened by the possibility that someone who writes product descriptions for scented candles might be capable of more than you've told everyone she is. The silence that follows is different from the others. Something has shifted in the room, in him, in me. When David speaks again, his voice is very quiet and very cold. You want to know what I'm really threatened by, Sarah? I'm threatened by the possibility that you'll keep living in this fantasy where you're some undiscovered professional talent instead of accepting what you actually are and being grateful for what you actually have. And what am I, David? In your expert opinion? He looks directly at me, and when he speaks, his voice is steady and brutal. You're someone who peaked in college and has been coasting ever since. You're someone who thinks effort equals competence and can't understand why the world won't recognize your potential. You're someone who would rather blame everyone else for your limitations than do the hard work of accepting them. Each word lands like a physical blow, but something strange happens as he talks. Instead of crumpling under the weight of his assessment, I feel something else building in my chest. Something that might be clarity. You know what, David? You might be right about all of that. Maybe I am someone who peaked in college. Maybe I have been coasting. Maybe I do blame other people for my limitations. I pick up my laptop and close it with deliberate calm. But at least I'm not someone who spends 8 years sabotaging the person they claim to love most in the world. I head toward the stairs, but David's voice stops me. Where are you going? To bed. Unlike some people, I have to work tomorrow. Sarah, we're not done talking about this. I turn back to face him. Actually, we are. We're done talking about this, and we're done with a lot of other things too. What's that supposed to mean? It means I finally understand who I'm married to. And now I need to figure out what I'm going to do about it. I don't sleep. I lie in bed staring at the ceiling while David showers and gets ready for work like it's any other Tuesday morning. The sound of him humming in the bathroom, actually humming, makes my skin crawl. At 7:23 a.m., he appears in the bedroom doorway wearing his charcoal gray suit and the tie I bought him for his birthday last year. We should finish our conversation tonight, he says, adjusting his cufflinks with the same casual precision he uses for everything. When we've both had time to cool down. I don't respond. After a moment, he leaves, and I hear the garage door close behind him. Only then do I allow myself to cry, not the desperate, confused tears I've shed after every job rejection, but something deeper and angrier. At 9:15, I call in sick to the boutique. Margaret's annoyed sigh through the phone doesn't even register. I have bigger problems than disappointing someone who pays me $16.50 an hour to arrange candles and fold scarves. I spend the morning making lists. First, every job I can remember applying for over the past 3 years. Then, every contact David might have at companies I've never even heard of yet. By lunch, I have 2 pages of opportunities that might have been poisoned before I ever submitted an application. But it's the third list that changes everything, a list of my actual accomplishments that David dismissed last night. As I write them down, I realize something that makes my hands shake with more than just anger. I'm good at this work. Really good. The boutique's holiday campaign I created didn't just increase sales by 38%, it was featured in a local business journal as an example of effective small business marketing. The inventory system I designed saved the company an estimated $12,000 in tracking errors last year alone. The product descriptions David mocks as trivial work? 3 other boutiques in the shopping center have asked Margaret if they can hire me to write copy for their websites. I'd forgotten these things. Somehow, over years of gentle discouragement and managed expectations, I'd started seeing my work through David's eyes instead of my own. At 2:30 p.m., I do something I haven't done in 8 years of marriage. I make a major decision without asking David's opinion first. I create a new email address using my maiden name, sarah.mitchell.marketing@gmail.com. Then I build a portfolio website. Not the apologetic, understated version I've been working on, but something that showcases what I've actually accomplished. The boutique campaigns, complete with sales figures. The inventory optimization project with cost savings data. Photos of the window displays I designed that customers regularly stop to photograph for Instagram. It takes 6 hours, but by 8 p.m. I have something that looks professional. More than professional, impressive. David comes home at his usual time, carrying takeout from the Italian place we both like, as if last night never happened. I got your favorite, he says, unpacking containers of chicken marsala and garlic bread. Thought we could have dinner and talk things through rationally. I already ate, I lie. He pauses, plastic fork halfway to his mouth. Okay. Well, I've been thinking about our conversation last night, and I think there are some things we both could have handled better. The casual way he says our conversation, like it was a minor disagreement about vacation plans instead of him admitting to 8 years of systematic sabotage, makes something snap inside me. Have you been thinking about Marcus, Jen? I ask. What about Marcus? He's going to call you tomorrow. About my interview with Cascade Communications. David sets down his fork. Sarah, I'm curious what you'll tell him. About my reliability issues or my unrealistic expectations or whatever story you've decided explains why I'm not qualified for another job I'll never get. I haven't decided anything. I don't even know if he'll call. He'll call. I close my laptop and look directly at him. Because that's how this works, isn't it? Your network of former classmates and colleagues who trust your judgment about whether your wife is worth taking a chance on. David's face shifts into what I now recognize as his management expression, patient, condescending, designed to make me feel like I'm overreacting. What do you want me to tell him, Sarah? If Marcus calls and asks about you, what would you like me to say? The question is a trap. If I ask him to lie for me, I'm admitting I need his help. If I tell him to tell the truth, I'm accepting his version of what the truth is. But I have a third option now. Tell him whatever you want, I say. It doesn't matter anymore. What do you mean? I mean, I'm done playing a game where you control all the rules. David's fork clatters against his plate. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm withdrawing my application from Cascade Communications first thing tomorrow morning. And Morrison Creative. And Hartwell and Associates. And every other company where you've already decided I'm not good enough. His eyebrows furrow in what looks like genuine confusion. But you wanted those jobs. I wanted a fair chance at those jobs. Since that's apparently impossible with your helpful input, I'm done wasting my time. David pushes his takeout container away, leaning forward with that familiar expression of patient concern that used to make me feel loved and now makes my skin crawl. Sarah, I know you're angry, but let's think about this practically. You can't just stop applying for jobs because you're upset with me. We need your income to increase eventually. Do we? The question stops him mid-sentence. Because according to you, I've been contributing less than 30% to our household expenses for 8 years, and somehow we've survived. That's not sustainable long-term. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you spent 8 years making sure it stayed that way. David runs his hands through his hair, and I can see him recalibrating, trying to figure out which approach will work on me now that his usual tactics have been exposed. Look, maybe I made some mistakes in how I handled things. Maybe I was overprotective. But completely giving up on your career isn't the solution. I'm not giving up on my career. I'm giving up on seeking approval from your network of gatekeepers. What does that mean? I open my laptop and turn the screen toward him. My new portfolio website fills the display, clean, professional, showcasing 3 years of work he's never bothered to really look at. I spent today building this. Documenting what I've actually accomplished instead of focusing on what you think I'm incapable of. David squints at the screen, scrolling through pages of campaign results and project summaries. This is, actually pretty good, he says, and the surprise in his voice would be insulting if it weren't so revealing. Thanks for the ringing endorsement. I didn't mean it like that. I didn't realize you'd quantified all this data. The holiday campaign numbers are impressive. I know they are. The question is why you didn't know that. David clicks through several more pages, his expression shifting from surprise to something that might be concern. Sarah, what are you planning to do with this? I'm going to start applying for positions where you don't have connections. Companies you've never heard of, in markets you don't network in. That seems limiting. Less limiting than having my husband torpedo every opportunity in his professional orbit. David closes the laptop abruptly. I think you're being dramatic about the scope of this. Am I? How many Northwestern MBA graduates work in Seattle marketing, David? How many people from your consulting firm have moved to agency positions? How many fraternity brothers, former colleagues, and networking contacts do you run into at industry events? The silence stretches long enough that I know I've hit something accurate. It's not like I have some master list of people to sabotage you with, he says finally. But you have enough connections that I can't apply anywhere decent without risking another informal reference check or friendly conversation about your wife's limitations. David shifts uncomfortably. Most industries are smaller than people realize. There's bound to be some overlap. Which is why I'm expanding my search radius. What do you mean? I meet his eyes directly. Portland has a growing creative sector. So does Vancouver. Spokane's developing a tech hub that needs marketing support. Those cities are hours away. I know. The implication hangs in the air between us. David stares at me for a long moment, and I can see him processing what I'm really saying. You're talking about moving? I'm talking about going where my professional reputation hasn't been systematically destroyed by someone who's supposed to be on my side. The color drains from David's face as my words sink in. For the first time since this nightmare began, he looks genuinely shaken. You can't be serious about moving away. Your whole life is here. My whole small life is here, I correct him. The life you've decided is appropriate for someone with my limitations. David stands abruptly, nearly knocking over his water glass. Sarah, you're talking about throwing away 8 years of marriage because you're upset about some job applications. Some job applications? I laugh, but there's no humor in it. David, you systematically destroyed my professional confidence for nearly a decade. You used my trust in you as a weapon against my own ambitions. I made some judgment calls that maybe weren't perfect, but you made 12 calculated decisions to sabotage my career while pretending to support me. That's not imperfect judgment. That's emotional abuse disguised as love. The words emotional abuse hit him like a slap. He recoils physically, shaking his head. That's not, I never abused you. I've never raised my voice, never been anything but supportive. Supportive? My voice rises despite my efforts to stay calm. You held me while I cried about rejections you orchestrated, David. You comforted me through failures you engineered. If that's not psychological manipulation, what is? David starts pacing behind the couch, his movements sharp and agitated. You're rewriting history to make me into some kind of villain. I was trying to protect you from disappointment. Stop saying that. The words explode out of me. Stop pretending this was about protecting me. You told Marcus Chin I was unreliable while I was caring for your mother in the hospital. You told Jennifer Walsh I had unrealistic expectations after I specifically mentioned wanting family-friendly policies for our future kids. You took the most vulnerable things I shared with you and weaponized them. I was being honest about potential challenges. You were betraying my trust in the cruelest way possible. David stops pacing and faces me, his expression shifting to something harder. Fine. You want complete honesty? Here it is, watching you aim for positions you weren't qualified for was embarrassing. Having to explain to my colleagues why my wife kept getting rejected from jobs was humiliating. I got tired of making excuses for your lack of professional development. The brutal honesty is almost refreshing after years of manipulation disguised as care. There it is. Finally. I didn't want to hurt your feelings, but you're forcing me to be blunt. His voice is cold now, controlled. You have a state school communications degree and 3 years of boutique retail experience. In what world does that qualify you for director-level positions at established firms? In a world where people are allowed to grow and take on new challenges instead of being kept in tiny boxes by people who claim to love them. Or in a fantasy world where effort equals qualification and everyone gets a trophy for trying. I stare at him, this man I shared a bed with for 8 years, wondering how I never saw this contempt before. But maybe I did see it. Maybe there were 1,000 small moments when his mask slipped, and I explained them away because I needed to believe in the love he was performing. I'm filing for divorce, I say quietly. David's face goes white. What? You heard me. I'm filing for divorce, and I'm moving to Portland. I already researched family law attorneys, and I have a consultation scheduled for Thursday morning. Sarah, you can't, we can work through this. Couples therapy, marriage counseling. There's nothing to work through, David. You don't respect me. You don't believe in me. You don't even like who I am when I want something more than what you've decided I deserve. That's not true. Then why did you look so satisfied when you told me about those lower-paying jobs you think I should target? Why did you smile when you described me as someone who peaked in college? David opens his mouth to deny it, then closes it. Because he knows I'm right. Part of him enjoyed cutting me down to size. I want you out of the house by Friday, I continue, my voice steadier than I expected. I'm keeping the car, and I'm liquidating my retirement account to fund the move. You can't just kick me out of my own house. Watch me. David's laugh is sharp and ugly. You think you can just kick me out? Sarah, the mortgage is in my name. The car lease is in my name. Your name isn't on anything because you've never made enough money to qualify as a co-signer. The words hit me like ice water. In all my righteous anger, I hadn't considered the practical reality of our financial arrangement. 8 years of David taking care of everything because it was easier and I was too busy to deal with paperwork. The house is mine. Bought with my down payment, my credit score, my income verification. He's not pacing anymore. He's standing perfectly still, and that scares me more than his anger did. The car lease has 18 months left at $412 a month. The insurance, the utilities, the mortgage, all in my name because you never qualified to be added. My mouth goes dry. I've been paying half the utilities for 3 years. You've been giving me cash toward expenses. There's no paper trail showing you as a legal resident with financial obligations. David walks to the kitchen counter and opens his laptop with deliberate calm. Would you like to see the mortgage documents? The lease agreement? Any legal document that shows this is your home too? I can't speak. The confident woman who was going to kick him out and start fresh in Portland is dissolving as I realize how thoroughly I've been locked out of my own life. Here's what's actually going to happen, David continues, his voice taking on the same tone he uses with difficult clients. You're going to apologize for going through my private emails. You're going to acknowledge that I may have made some mistakes, but my intentions were to protect our marriage. And you're going to drop this ridiculous talk about divorce and moving to Portland. Or what? Or you'll be 32 years old with $16,000 in retirement savings, no rental history, no credit in your own name, and no references except from a boutique job that pays $35,000 a year. He closes the laptop with a soft click. Good luck affording first month's rent, last month's rent, and a security deposit in Portland on that income. The systematic nature of it takes my breath away. This isn't just about sabotaging my career, it's about ensuring I could never leave. Every time he insisted on handling the boring financial stuff, every time he said it was easier to keep everything in one name for tax purposes, every time I let him manage our life because he was better with numbers. You planned this, I whisper. I plan to take care of my wife, yes. I plan to build a stable life for us. If that kept you from making impulsive decisions that would hurt both of us, then yes, I planned that too. My legs feel unsteady, so I sit down hard on the couch. The credit cards? Authorized user only. Has been for 6 years. The savings account? Joint account, but guess whose name is listed first? Guess who'd get the funds if there was ever a dispute? David sits down across from me, and his voice softens into something that might have been comforting once. Sarah, I know you're upset, but can you see how this proves my point? You wanted to make a dramatic exit without even checking whether you could afford to leave. That's exactly the kind of impulsive decision-making I've been trying to protect you from. Protect me from having choices, you mean? Protect you from choices that would destroy your life. He leans forward, and I can see him shifting back into concerned husband mode. Do you really want to be a 32-year-old woman starting over with nothing in a city where you don't know anyone? Working some entry-level job just to prove a point? The terrible thing is that part of me is listening. Part of me is calculating rental costs and wondering if I really could make it alone, and hating myself for the doubt. I have friends. You have college friends you see twice a year and neighbors you wave to. When was the last time you spent time with someone who wasn't connected to me or my social circle? The question hits harder than it should because I can't immediately answer it. How did I become so isolated without noticing? This is what I mean about being realistic, David continues, his voice gentle now, persuasive. I'm not the villain here, Sarah. I'm the person who's been holding our life together while you chased fantasies. And I'm willing to forgive this whole episode if you are. I look at him sitting there in his expensive suit, offering forgiveness for discovering his betrayal, and something crystallizes inside me. No, I say quietly. No what? No, I won't apologize. No, I won't pretend your sabotage was protection. And no, I won't stay married to someone who spent 8 years systematically destroying my confidence while making sure I couldn't leave. David's patient expression cracks. Sarah, be practical. Where exactly do you think you're going to go? I stand up, my legs steady again. I don't know yet. But anywhere is better than staying with someone who thinks loving me means keeping me small. David's laugh is cold and calculating. Anywhere is better? Sarah, do you have any idea what anywhere costs when you have no credit history and make $35,000 a year? He pulls out his phone with theatrical precision, fingers flying across the screen. Studio apartment in Portland, average rent is $1,800 a month. That's more than half your gross income before taxes. Add utilities, groceries, car insurance you'll have to get in your own name. He pauses, pretending to calculate. Oh wait, you can't get car insurance in your own name because you don't have a car. Each number hits like a physical blow, but I force myself to stay standing. First month, last month, security deposit, he continues, scrolling through rental listings. That's $5,400 just to move in somewhere. Plus moving costs, deposits for electricity and internet, basic furniture since everything here is mine. He looks up with mock concern. We're at about $8,000 before you buy your first grocery. How exactly are you planning to finance this independence? I'll figure it out. With what? Your retirement account has $16,000, but there's a 10% penalty for early withdrawal plus taxes. So you're looking at maybe $12,000 actual cash. David sets his phone down deliberately. $12,000 to start a new life in an expensive city where you know nobody and have no job lined up. The numbers swirl in my head, each one a lock on the cage he's built around me. But then I remember something. What about the joint savings account? His expression shifts almost imperceptibly. What about it? You said it was joint. That means I have access to it, right? Technically, yes, but... How much is in there, David? The silence stretches too long. When he finally answers, his voice has lost its confident edge. About $43,000. My breath catches. $43,000? Since when do we have $43,000 in savings? It's been accumulating for a few years. My bonuses, tax refunds, the money we saved when you started paying utilities. The money we saved? You mean the money I've been contributing to household expenses while you've been building a secret nest egg? The betrayal feels fresh and sharp. When were you planning to tell me about this? David shifts uncomfortably. It's not secret. It's in both our names. But you never mentioned we had that much saved. When I wanted to take that marketing certification course last year and you said it was too expensive, we had $43,000 sitting in savings? The course was $3,000 for something that might not even help your career prospects. According to who? You? I grabbed my purse from the counter, checking for my debit card. What's the account number? Sarah, you can't just. What's the account number, David? His jaw ticks. You're being impulsive again. This is exactly what I was trying to prevent. I pull out my phone and dial the bank's customer service line. David watches with growing alarm as I navigate through the automated system. Yes, I'd like to check the balance on my joint savings account, I say when a representative answers. I provide my social security number and address, answering security questions while David sits frozen. The current balance is $43,217, the voice confirms. Would you like to make any transactions today? My heart pounds. Yes, I'd like to transfer $30,000 to my checking account. Sarah, stop, David says sharply, but I hold up a hand. I can process that transfer immediately, the representative says. The funds should be available in your checking account within 2 hours. Perfect. Thank you. I hang up and look at David, whose face has gone pale. You can't take $30,000, he says, his voice tight with panic. That's our emergency fund. Our emergency fund that I didn't know existed while you convinced me we couldn't afford a $3,000 certification course? I smile, and it feels dangerous. Well, David, this is my emergency. Half of that money came from my income. And the other half came from household contributions you've been telling me weren't significant enough to matter. I grab my laptop and close it. Looks like my contribution was more valuable than you pretended. David stands abruptly, his controlled facade finally cracking completely. You can't just steal half our savings and run off to Portland like some teenager having a tantrum. Watch me. This is insane, Sarah. You're throwing away 8 years of marriage, a stable home, financial security, for what? To prove some feminist point about independence? His dismissive tone ignites something fierce in my chest. I'm leaving because staying means accepting that my husband thinks so little of me that he spent nearly a decade sabotaging my career while making sure I couldn't escape. I never tried to trap you. Then why do you look absolutely terrified that I might actually leave? The question hangs in the air like smoke, and I watch David's face cycle through emotions, panic, anger, calculation, and something that looks almost like genuine fear. I'm not terrified, he says, but his voice lacks conviction. I'm concerned about you making decisions that will destroy your life out of spite. Spite? I laugh, and the sound surprises me with its steadiness. David, spite would be forwarding those sabotage emails to Marcus Chen and asking him to share them with your entire Northwestern alumni network. Spite would be calling Tom Brennan and Jennifer Walsh to let them know how you've been using their trust to manipulate hiring decisions. The color drains from his face. You wouldn't do that. Wouldn't I? I tilt my head, studying his expression. What exactly would stop me? My deep respect for your professional reputation? My desire to protect the career you've spent 8 years undermining mine for? David's hands clench into fists at his sides. Sarah, if you damage my professional relationships over this, you'll destroy both our futures. My network isn't just about my career, it's about our financial stability. Our financial stability? The irony is almost beautiful. You mean the financial stability you built by making sure I stayed financially dependent on you? I mean the income that's been supporting both of us while you figured out what you wanted to do with your life. While I tried to build a career despite your active interference, you mean? David begins pacing again, his movements sharp and agitated. Fine. Maybe I was overprotective. Maybe I made some poor decisions about how to handle your job search. But destroying my reputation won't fix anything, Sarah. It'll just make both of us unemployable. Both of us? I set my laptop down carefully. How exactly would exposing your behavior make me unemployable? Because everyone will know you're the wife who went nuclear on her husband's career over some job applications. No one wants to hire someone that vindictive. The casual manipulation in his tone, the way he's already reframing his systematic sabotage as some job applications and my response as vindictive, would have worked on me yesterday. Today, it just makes me angrier. You know what's interesting about that theory? I say conversationally. I spent today researching Portland marketing firms, and 3 of them specifically mention supporting professionals who are relocating to escape difficult personal circumstances. Apparently, starting over isn't as uncommon as you'd like me to believe. David stops pacing. You've been planning this all day? I've been planning my escape all day, yes. Turns out there's a whole network of companies that specifically recruit people looking for fresh starts away from toxic situations. I open my phone and show him the screen. I already submitted applications to 4 firms using my new portfolio website. His eyes dart to the phone, scanning the company names with growing alarm. Sarah, you can't just, these are competitors to firms in my network. If word gets back that you're badmouthing me to get interviews. I didn't mention you at all, I interrupt. I simply presented my qualifications and expressed interest in relocating for better opportunities. Amazing how much stronger my application looks when it's not being undermined by helpful context about my reliability issues. David's laugh is hollow. You think those Portland firms are going to hire you sight unseen? Sarah, they'll do reference checks. They'll call your current employer, look into your background. Let them call Margaret. I've been her most reliable employee for 3 years, and she knows it. I've never missed a deadline, never called in sick except for legitimate emergencies, and I've increased her sales consistently every quarter I've worked there. Margaret pays you $16.50 an hour to fold clothes. Margaret pays me $16.50 an hour because that's what small retail businesses can afford, not because that's what my work is worth. I stand up, feeling steadier than I have in years. Those Portland firms? They're offering starting salaries between $55,000 and $70,000 for the positions I applied for. David's face goes white. $70,000? Sarah, be realistic. There it is again. Be realistic. I walk to the kitchen and pour myself a glass of water, noting how my hands aren't shaking anymore. Do you want to know what happened when I stopped being realistic according to your definition? When I stopped apologizing for wanting more than what you decided I deserved? He doesn't answer, but I continue anyway. I realize that every single accomplishment I listed in my portfolio happened despite your discouragement, not because of your support. The holiday campaign you dismissed? I designed it during the week you told me I was taking on too much responsibility at work. The inventory system you never asked about? I built it after you said I was getting too invested in a job that was meant to be temporary. Those were suggestions meant to help you maintain work-life balance. Those were attempts to keep me small and manageable. I lean against the counter, studying his face. But here's what really scares you, isn't it? It's not that I might fail in Portland. It's that I might succeed. The silence that follows stretches so long I can hear the refrigerator humming and a car door slamming somewhere down the street. David's face cycles through emotions like a broken slideshow: anger, panic, calculation, and finally something that looks like defeat. You want to know what really scares me? His voice is quiet, almost conversational. What scares me is that you're right. The admission hits me like cold water. After hours of denials and manipulation, his honesty is somehow more unsettling than his lies. I didn't need you to stay small, he continues, sinking back into the chair. Not because you couldn't handle more, but because I couldn't handle you having more. I set down my water glass carefully, afraid to break whatever spell has made him finally tell the truth. When we got married, you looked at me like I had all the answers. You asked my advice about everything: what to wear to your cousin's wedding, which route to take to your mom's house, whether that freelance project was worth taking. His laugh is bitter. Do you know how good that felt? Being the expert, the one who knew better? So you made sure it stayed that way. I made sure you kept needing me. He runs both hands through his hair, leaving it disheveled. Every time you started getting confident about your career, every time you stopped asking for my input on decisions, I felt you slipping away. And I panicked. The raw honesty is almost harder to bear than his cruelty. This version of David, vulnerable and ashamed, is the one I fell in love with 9 years ago. The worst part? He looks up at me with eyes that are suddenly very young. I know you're going to be fine without me. Better than fine. You're going to get one of those Portland jobs and prove that you never needed my protection or my management or my fucking networking connections. David. I read your portfolio website, he interrupts. Really read it, not just the dismissive glance I gave it earlier. Sarah, that holiday campaign strategy was brilliant. The way you analyzed customer demographics and seasonal buying patterns, that's director-level thinking. I want to feel vindicated, but mostly I just feel sad. 8 years too late for recognition from the person whose opinion shaped how I saw myself. I've been telling myself I was protecting you, he continues, but I was protecting myself. From the possibility that my wife might be more successful than me. From losing the only relationship where I got to be the smart one, the capable one, the one in control. You could have just talked to me about feeling insecure. And risk you seeing me as weak? Risk you realizing you'd outgrown me? David shakes his head. It was easier to convince you that you were the problem. The casual admission of 8 years of gaslighting should make me furious, but instead I feel something close to relief. Finally, the truth. Finally, acknowledgement of what he did and why. I'm still leaving, I say quietly. I know. He meets my eyes directly for the first time all evening. And I'm not going to try to stop you anymore. Not because I'm noble, but because I finally understand that keeping you trapped only works if you don't realize you're in a cage. I pick up my laptop and head toward the stairs, then pause. For what it's worth, David, you are smart and capable. You just convinced yourself that my success would somehow diminish yours. In a different world, we could have built something amazing together instead of you tearing me down to build yourself up. In a different world, maybe I would have been brave enough to let you shine. His voice follows me up the stairs. I'm sorry, Sarah. For all of it. You deserved so much better than what I gave you. 3 weeks later, I'm sitting in a coffee shop in Portland's Pearl District, waiting for my second interview at Morrison Creative, the Portland branch, not the Seattle one where David torpedoed my chances 8 months ago. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Got the Cascade Communications job. Turns out Marcus Chen was impressed by your portfolio after all. He said your husband's concerns seemed overblown once he met you properly. Congratulations on the new start. You earned it. D. I delete the message without responding, but I can't help smiling. Some stories end with dramatic confrontations or grand gestures of revenge. This one ends with me finally becoming the person I was always capable of being, the person David spent 8 years making sure I'd never believe I could be. And the most beautiful part? I don't need his validation anymore to know I'm enough.